Hey, this is Tunnel Study with BA. This one is a little bit different. The concept came to me actually a couple weeks ago. And what I want to do is kind of just go through Tunnel to kind of give you some insight to, instead of me just pulling stuff out of there and, pasting it into a video or whatever, I wanted to actually kind of like live go through the book, actually flip through it randomly so that you can kind of get a better understanding of the depth that's really in the book. Okay. So given that this is completely unscripted, which means I'm not, I'm not doing any particular page or whatever. It's going to be completely random. I'm going to skip around and stuff to just kind of give you some insight. There's some people out there, I guess, that they feel like there's one secret to Gann, and if they just get that one secret, then they'll be fine, okay, or whatever. They have this idea that there's like take the square of 9. A lot of people are out there. Oh, I got to get the square of 9. What? You can throw that in the trash. That's not going to work at all for you without the cycles. I mean, yeah, people have these little piddly systems or whatever, but to really get it functional the way Gann did, you have to have the cycles. Okay, so studying the square of 9, people don't succeed that way. I've been studying Tunnel for 20 years, okay? And I can tell you there's no secret where you just sneak in and steal it in your set or whatever. It doesn't work like that, okay? What you're dealing with here is truth, and truth takes time to develop and understand, okay? It's not like it's not like something like a squared equals b squared or whatever, and you could just go make millions and stuff. It doesn't work like that, okay? You have to build up and build up and build up. And the book Tunnel's written layered like that, okay, to where like I said, I've had this book. I'm coming up on 20 years of it. In April, early April, it'll be 20 years. So I'm just shy of 3 months with it of 20 years. Okay, and I have intensely studied this stuff for 20 years, and there's people out there that are actually better than I am at it, and that doesn't bother me at all. To each his own. I just try and live a happy life. Let's get started on this. Okay, the Tunnel Through the Air, and this is free on my website, and I distribute it free because I think it's very critical for those that actually are going to put in the time to succeed in the field, okay, and actually, understand this on a deeper level, that leads to pure success. People, in my opinion, have to study this book for years. There's no other way. All right. And that's how come it's free on my site. So I'm just going to stop in random places and let's see what's going on. Here we go. Okay. This is page 128. Run notable examples. This is where he's talking about the Bible. The Bible is a priceless book because it makes promises no other book can make. It promises pardon, salvation, eternal life, soul rest, peace, comfort, strength, and succor, victory over trials and temptations, strength in dying hour, and heaven for all eternity. Okay. A popular author of fiction boasts 9 million copies of his book published in 8 years. 240 million copies of the Bible have been sold in the same 8 years. And you would think, okay, well, that is, that those numbers are just there for, coincidence or whatever. No, those numbers have importance, okay? Another publisher boasts that his book has been printed in 23 languages. The Bible is published in 770 different dialects. Well, if you take the 110-story building, okay, and this is a good example of how this comes in. That's 770. Oh, that's just random. No, if you take the 110-story building and you times it by 7, you get 770. Because when I originally read this, not the first time, but later on, I was like, why did he mention that number? Because that's a lot of languages on the planet and stuff. No, that's a number. He's giving you a clue there, and he wants you. What's going on here in this book is he wants you to understand tunnel. He knows that you want to make a lot of money in financial markets. So he says, okay, I'm going to lead you through this stuff and explain the Bible to you on your way to getting this financial market stuff. And what that does is that really expands your mind, because believe it or not, I know this is a crazy concept, but there's something out there that's far more important than money, and that's knowledge. Okay. Now let's go to another part. These are just random parts. Let's stop here. Page 177. This is where he's with the professor, Professor O.B.Y. Joyful. And some of this poetry, what he does is, I call it bait and switch. Because there's some Bible stuff or whatever. What he'll do is he'll take, he'll start leading up to an important part. Then he'll put some Bible verses there, sometimes to explain that part. Or the poetry. The poetry is generally there as filler to spread the part around. And then after the poetry, it'll start back as, what he originally started with. We may be one in those in that area. Okay, here we are, a couple pages before that. Page 171. His birthday had indeed been a success financially, and his 21st birthday found him on top of the world. But this was not what counted with Robert. The great disappointment was that hopes for Marie on the day were blasted, but he had not given up. Okay. As he looked over the newspapers, he saw an advertisement headed Madame Cleo Clairvoyant. The advertisement stated that Madame Cleo would reunite the separated and bring back lost lovers. Well, Gordon had never been a clairvoyant, and his only faith was in astro and science laid down in the Bible. See, there's an important part there, because what's going on there is Gann wasn't using what traditional astrologers would use, okay? And I've had people, even say that he was using Vedic astrology and stuff like that. But I don't know any Vedic astrology, and I understand the cycles that are in tunnel through the air. And so basically translated that is, I understand the cycles, and I don't know any Vedic astrology, okay? But the astro that's in there isn't stuff like Venus or Jupiter conjunct Venus in your natal, and you're blissfully happy and it equals love or something like that. It's not like that. Gann used a fusion of astro and astronomy. I call it astrolonomy. All right. Okay, so he says, in desperation, he decided to grasp at any straw. Early on the morning of June 10th, notice that this is around his birthday, his 21st birthday. He called to see Madame Cleo. He told that he had gone through a great sorrow, but the sweetheart would return to him in a few days. Good cheer, because Marie loved him only. Robert felt more hopeful and returned to his hotel, hoping to get some news of Marie. There were no letters, telegrams. He called the broker, blah, 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 blah. Talks about bushels here. Professor O.B. Joyful. Okay. Robert eagerly read the advertisement because the name attracted him. That means it's important. Okay? That means it's important. Professor Joyful's advertisement stated that the science of astrology, he could tell when success would start, when trouble would end, and reveal when marriage would take place. Robert was a great believer in astrology. He says it again. He's backing that up. Believe in astrology. Believe in astrology. He's trying to get that point across to you, okay, that astro is important, because he had found this great science. Now, see, there's the key. If you look at this, he doesn't use astrology alone. He says astrology and great science. And then up here, he says, where was that? After sending in the telegram, okay, advertising because the name attracted him. Where was that other part at where he had just mentioned astrology? I think it was up in here. Yeah. Robert had been a clairvoyant, and his only faith was in astrology, but he doesn't leave it there. And the science laid down the Bible. And the reason why he connects the astro with the science is it's not pure astrology. And to back that up, he says it again on the next page. Astrology, because he had found the great science referred to so many times. See, there's a science. It's not the interpretive part of that stuff, okay? So that's, be careful. He had made notes as he read the Bible at different times when it referred to astrology or the signs in the heavens, and was thoroughly convinced that the influence of the heavenly bodies governed our lives. Okay? All this stuff. Less light to rule by night. Okay, to rule day and night. So this is he's given, in leading up to this part of 177, he's just given these Bible verses, where it talks about astro, the moon and the stars to rule by night, for his mercy endureth forever. His mercy. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so we're back. This is Bible stuff. And sunbeams. Okay, now we're into the famed poetry. So that means when you see that poetry, there is a poem or two that has something special in it, and that's important. Okay, and that's important. But it's not particularly in the rest of them. Okay, normally it's used as filler to push ideas apart. Okay, now in this point, it comes back after all that stuff in the poetry. It comes back to Joyful, Professor Joyful. Okay, by the time the secretary announced that Professor Joyful was ready to receive him, he entered the professor's office, where he met a middle-aged man whose kindly face indicated he had sympathy for those in trouble. Robert stated briefly his troubles. Upon being asked his date of birth, he said he was born June 9th, 1906. The professor made out his horoscope hurriedly and told him that Venus and Mars were in conjunction by transcendent sign Leo, which ruled the heart. That Venus applied to a trine of Uranus, and while he could give him hopeful news and could assure him that his horoscope that he would one day find Marie, he could not offer false hopes and state that he would find her within a few days. Said there was a possibility of his finding her within 2 years. Okay. Well, but it would probably be 3 or 4 years before he would ever come into his life again. Said that there was a possibility. Okay, so what we really need is the date on this, and not Robert Gordon's birthday. What we need is the actual date that he went to go see him. And I bet you that's there. Well, let's go back and take a look. Let's see how to go back and take a look at this date, because I bet you that's why the poetry and everything's there. Is so, okay, his 21st birthday. So if Robert was born, okay, so early in the morning of June 10th, he called to see Madame Cleo. So this is in June. Okay, and then, so this is, so this would be, so this is in June. This is in June of 21. Plus 06 is 1927. This is in June of 27. Okay, said that there was a possibility of finding her within 2 years. Well, what does that mean? Because you have to think, you would think, okay, well, that's just filler. Gann's putting that in. No. Because what happens is, in February of 29, which is less than 2 years, he's in Paris, France, and Marie drops this, or supposedly Marie drops this mysterious letter. Okay, and Robert's not feeling good. Then he has to go get it interpreted and stuff. Okay, and stuff. Well, okay, so here's the deal. Is this Professor O.B.Y. Joyful? He's the one that keys us into this 2 years. So if we went and got the Paris letter date, which is in February of 1929. That's just off the top of my head. Okay. And we bring it back. Could we check it against this date to notice the number of days between the two dates? Okay. Could we do that? Yeah, we could. Okay. Well, that would be something for you to do. Okay. The fact that Venus separating from conjunction of Mars. Now, astrologers will use this stuff and say, see, that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing right there. See, he's using the astrology. No, it's not it. Okay. He told Robert that he was born a genius and the next years would make a great success in speculation. And, okay, while Robert was disappointed, he felt that this scientific man was telling the truth and decided to take his advice. Okay. All that jazz. Okay, Robert told him of his plans to go to and the professor said New York was ruled by the sign Cancer, and in view of the fact that the planet Venus, the goddess of love, was located in that sign, he would eventually meet or find Marie in New York City. Okay, so he does. He does eventually find Marie in New York City. That happens at the end of the book in August 30th of 1932. Okay, so he does He does find Marie. So is there a connection between, and this is the question, why put this in? This is what you got to ask. Why put this in here? Well, in this part of it, is he taking this, all right, is he taking this and tying this in, this date, because he did a lot to hide this date. And now we can start to see why. I mean, look at all these Bible verses. Heck, he does 7-8 pages with just dates, and then ends it all with a nice love poem that has, very little meaning to it. Okay? So, dun, 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 okay? You see that? So even these things, okay, we're going to go speed ahead and stop. Just a random thing. Okay? Okay, and yeah, this is when he finds the letter of Marie. Now, Marie had already left, and we're around, what page are we? Yeah, we're around page 185. Marie leaves him about 60 pages earlier. Okay, and this is dated. This is a very specific date, and this is a very specific time that Marie wrote this letter, and that's not there because it's random filler. Okay, that's extremely important for certain measurements within this context. Okay. Mr. Kenilworth returned to the hotel, and after dinner told Robert he wanted to have a confidential chat with his son Walter. Robert decided to go out for a walk and see the city. When they were alone, Walter told his father he had a long talk with Robert and that his mind was on nothing but Marie. His father said the only thing to do is to help Robert get interested in his work so that he will forget about Marie. That is the best thing for him at present. Okay, so at this point you have to ask yourself, what is Walter's father, Mr. Kenilworth? What is Mr. Kenilworth at this point? Because what happens is, in the scheme of the story, is Mr. Kenilworth, he goes from, employing Robert. Robert elopes, or gets ready to elope, so he quits the employment of Kenilworth. Robert elopes, then he's in St. Louis because Marie left him, so he's kind of, freaked out in St. Louis. Kenilworth goes to rescue him, and then they take a train ride to New York City. Okay, together. On the following day, Monday, June 13th, Mr. Kenil, Robert, and Walter rose early for Colonel Limbaugh's triumphant march up Broadway. Robert was very enthusiastic because remember, Lindbergh is a lone aviator, and that's important. Okay. And talked about the great achievement it was and what it meant to the world, especially in the United States. Walter told him that must get busy. Okay, New York for Lindbergh reception. It was a great day for Colonel Limbaugh, great day for Robert because it didn't pass airplanes, conquer, one for all. Okay, and played near the end. And Molly was a great sorrow. Eric turned to Kenilworth, appreciate all his feet and. This matter in his mind. Okay, and then they're just talking about great love for Marie at this point. Eric, no evil, and Molly's sacrifice. Okay. More poet, or more of this stuff. Robert said it is interesting to go back over history and read the opinions of the smartest men in regard to women. Confucius said, someone once said, not for herself was a woman created. Okay, and then listen to this. Pythagoras said there are woman's eyes, two sorts of tears, one of grief, the other of deceit. Okay, well, folks, Pythagoras ain't exactly known for his womanizing. He's known for musical stuff, okay? So here we have a 2 and a 1. We have an octave, okay? So what this part is here for, woman is a miracle, divine contradictions. I'm not doubting that or lessening that at all. But what he's doing here is he's putting all this in, and then he's putting this in here. This is the key part here, Okay, it looks out of place. He's telling you to study Pythagoras, study 2 and 1. Okay, because it's important. Okay. All right, now we'll go speeding ahead. So that's why in this part he's talking about women and the love of a woman. He's leading up to this. And then I bet you after Pythagoras, we break away. What does it say? Okay, I think because there are two kinds. Here he goes again, because he wants you to see it. I think that is because there are 2 kinds of men. One who appreciates love and honor and gives them the other. Okay, 2 and 1 again. 2 and 1. So what he's saying is Pythagoras, 2 and 1. This is code. You see what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? See, there you go. All right, let's go forward here. I wound up. Robert finally decided to confide in him about the mysterious letter. The doctor had a brother in New York and was going to give Robert a letter of introduction to him upon his return. Okay, so we've got the letter at this part. Let's go back and get that. See if we can get that date. I'm leaving for the beach. Oh yeah, here we go. And so all my stuff's already packed up. But this will be uploaded in about a month. But anyway, page 240, on the beautiful sunshine day, latter part of February, while we were walking down a prominent street in Paris with no special objective in mind. Now this goes back. He was feeling sick and gloomy and was walking with his head down, looking at the street. Suddenly, he saw a form approaching very closely, and like a flash, a woman quickly passed him. He was sure it was Marie. His heart was in his throat. He turned around quickly. Okay, wait a minute. This connects back. See, like I told you, Tunnel is a book of connections, okay? So this February 1929 date here, and we can kind of Geiger this in to get the exact date, because what you'll do as homework is go back to page 239 to see if you get a better date on this, because the date's going to be important, and then connect that to Professor O.B.Y. Joyful, the date on that. You see that? Tunnel's a book of connections. This is how you work it. Okay, so. That's where it is in Marie. So this was his chance. Remember that chance? Okay. Robert called on Louis Renan. Okay. Stated this. Okay. Very, very important. Louis Renan. Louis. Okay. And all this other stuff. Let's go to my favorite in this part's Dr. Descartes. Ever heard of René Descartes? What's he known for? He's known for, right, here we are, Dr. Descartes, a.k.a. René Descartes. Think of it that way. All right, let's go forward here. That was just a coincidence. It's kind of cool, though, that we landed on that. Good things happen. Okay, 1931. After months of waiting, only a few, this is, by the way, page 304. After a few scouting acts on part of the enemy, a sudden attack occurred in March. A large fleet of airplanes sailed up the mists and attacked New Orleans. Destruction was swift and severe. The enemy's planes were so superior, their poisonous gas and bombs so effective that New Orleans fell within 3 days. Now, New Orleans, this is an important battle because they were heading from west to east in these battles. Okay, then once New Orleans is hit, they go from south to north, and that's very important. Okay. Okay. After the terrible destruction of New Orleans, it was again decided to float the white flag over the city, as had been done, and people badly frightened. Government officials were freaked. Okay. They knew they had the enemy had several bases in Mexico. Now you would think, okay, well, that several bases. That's not. Well, wait a minute, because if we can find out the date of what this is, okay, after months away, March 1931. Okay, so what you would do is you would go back for the Dow. We use the Dow for tunnel. I mean, because that's about all the data that's relatively easy to get going back that far. But so if you go back to March 1931, look for a large turn there and note it and write an arrow to that large turn, and it says enemy base. Okay. You see how I did that? You see why I'm doing that? Where was that part? They knew that the enemy had several bases in Mexico. Okay, well, there's a base there. Town of Longboard, Mississippi River. Said the enemy wanted to sufficiently tighten the people, wanted to sufficiently frighten, not tighten, Demand followed, continue up there, march up the Mississippi Valley. One important, okay. We're coming up on Cairo. Should be starting Cairo here. Later part of the month. Okay, so it'd be late May 1931. England, Germany, Italy, and Austria joined forces against the United States. The wealth of the United States that caused so much jealousy that now began to look as if Uncle Sam were a lone eagle. That is a very important line. Okay, anytime you see the word lone, I mentioned it earlier on in this. Okay, anytime you see that lone word, very important word. Okay, in the latter part of the month. So what he's doing is he's hiding it. So you would say, I don't know, anywhere from May 15th to May 30th, and you would look for a turn there. Okay, I had been preparing for, I had built hydroplanes, coast. Yeah, here you go. This is important. Okay, they had been preparing for war for years and had built fast hydroplanes which could travel on water at more than 150 miles per hour. That's a very specific number, and it's very important, okay, to what's going on, especially in Cairo or around Cairo. Okay, we were now in a worse position than the Allies were in 1917. Now wait a minute, okay. Now, since nothing's really random here, why mention 1970 here? We'll take the year. I'll show you this. This is kind of a trick to do this. 1931 minus 1917. Okay, I'll make sure. I'm kind of tired, so I'll make sure I get this right. 17 is 14. Now, what Gann's doing here is he's saying, I need a number here, but I'm not going to give him the direct number, because right off the bat, we are now in a worse position than we were in 1917. You wouldn't think of 14 years. I mean, you wouldn't think of that. Okay, so you have to do this, because what he's doing is he's looping back. And it depends on what you do here with the 14. But if you take 14 and you divide it by 2, you get 7 years. 7 years. Okay, you see that? All right, fighting their backs against the wall of the War Council, England. United States take constant all available forces could possibly spare and try to forestall attacks. Airplanes number. Okay, this is a little bit of bluff. Central northern parts, fierce fighting all the way up the river. United States hope. Final movement was swift. Every town was taken. Enemy advanced. The airplane attack was on at Cairo. The inhabitants had been moved to Louisville and Cincinnati. Now, that's important, because there's a connection between Cairo, Louisville, and Cincinnati. Very important connection. And he kind of gives you this also in another part of the book, but I'm not going to tell you where. You can't spoil all your fun. Plan was to let the enemy hydroplanes and battleships, advance, moved up, mouth of river, Cairo, Colonel Walter Kenilworth had been sent to Cairo with a new plane, which had been completed by the Major Electric Company. This plane was equipped with an electric machine, which could take the electric current from the air, charge it in the water, and destroy battleship for miles in every direction. He was circling the sky. What circles the sky? Okay, and what has altitude? And watching for an opportunity. Finally seen the planes receding from Cairo when they thought they had completed the destruction. He pressed a button and turned loose the powerful electric ray. In less than a minute, every cruiser and hydroplane was blown to pieces and burned up by the electric current. Okay, well, this is a very, you would think of this part here, you would think of it as, well, he's describing something, but what is it? Well, it's actually very simple. Okay, and I kind of keyed you in on that up there. Okay, news was flash. Okay, it states since the colonel destroyed the TJ-1. Now, wait a minute. Wait. While Cairo had been almost completely destroyed, this was the first real victory for the United States since Colonel Gordon destroyed the Tokyo J-1. So right away, we've got a connection. Okay, and that's what most people miss on this. Okay, Tokyo J-1. Okay, well, how does that connect back? Well, on what date did the Tokyo J-1 get destroyed? Because what he's saying is, I need to connect these two parts here. Okay, so you got to go back and see, he's going to make us work. Again, making us work. Tokyo J1. Okay, May of 1931. Okay, so and then we got, so we're in the latter part of May, and now we're, okay, that's after the battle. So I passed up my part here where I was at. You're right here. Okay, well, that's why I didn't mark it. Ugh. Okay, so what we got to do is we got to get the date that he took down the Tokyo J1, and we got to get the date of this. Okay, and it's sometime on the one side when I scrolled up, it was late May 1931, and then the next date he gives us is July 4th of 31. Okay. Large fleet. Okay. Okay. While his speech was short, he called attention to the fact that this was the 155th anniversary of the independence of the United States. Now, wait a minute. Didn't we just see a 150 number somewhere? Remember how I showed you how he gives you two examples kind of close to each other of something when he's trying to stress it for you? You see that? Okay. Well, I tell you what, I think because of time, I'll end it here, but we'll do more of this soon. Subscribe so you can get the latest on my free market calls, updates, and teachings. Knowledge is priceless. Hey, this is BA reminding you, you can succeed. Take care. Bye-bye.